Hello, everybody. I hope you're all doing good and happy Sabbath. So for today's lesson, before we start, we can start with a word of prayer. We are praying. Our kind and merciful God, we give thanks and praise unto your name as we humbly come to you to learn of your guidance from 1989 to the present, understanding how you have faithfully guided us and the messages that have came our way to lighten our path, to prepare us for other events that are yet to come, other waymarks that are ahead of us, to prepare us of the difficulties that we are still to face as your people. We ask that, please God, may we look back and trust in how you have led and guided us. May you help us to hold firm to the calls that which you have given us. And Lord, be with all our leaders and may you bless them now and forevermore. We ask at this hour that you may be with us with your presence of your Holy Spirit. Thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. Hi, everybody. I hope you're good and you had a wonderful week. So I'm going to repeat the lesson that was done eventually last week, which was the lesson about it's actually the change of leadership. But I'm going to take it from a different angle than how they tackled it. So this lesson was actually done on the 3rd of October. This particular lesson that which we are doing now on 2020, right? So you have LD, can you please mute? LD, can you just please mute? Okay. So as she is to present this lesson, she asked the people the question that can they remember of what actually happened 2 years ago, right? So she is going to cover or she's going to speak about how the past 2 years have actually unfolded and the studies or how God has led the movement within those 2 years. So she's here on the 3rd of October and 2020. And the current subject that was to unfold or was to be discussed was actually the beginning of marriage, the beginning of modern Israel. Right? So this is the subject that is going to be under consideration, looking at the beginning of modern Israel. So as she begins, she points us back to 2018 and she actually discusses how actually the message moved from one place to another place, right? Moved from one camp to another camp, and how that actually got to be unfolded. Like the Midnight Cry message, how did it actually blossom to be where it actually is at this time period? So she points the people back to the first studies that were done on October 2020, right? And she points out that when you look at the 3rd of October, so she's here on the 3rd of October 2020, and then she says actually when you look back to October the 3rd in 2018, we can be able to see it was the anniversary of the message. But she pointed out there was nothing that significant, so to say. But then when I looked at it, it was like quite interesting how actually the dots were connected together, how actually the line was threaded through, or how actually the message was moving through. So you see that on the 3rd of October, the message was the message of time was actually presented on this was the message of time that was presented in Arkansas. So Arkansas is it's actually in the United States, in the US, right? And then this is where the message was first presented of time. And then you see that on the message moved from the United States, and then it was presented on the 13th of October in France, right? And then she points out that, you see, she quotes Ellen White when she actually speaks about having one foot on the land and one foot on the sea, right? And then another step that the message took was on December 2020, or on the 3rd of December. And this was actually in Fiji. So in Fiji, you have that's where the third part, the message took place again. So you have the land, the sea, the islands of the seas, right? So you have Fiji as the island of the sea. So you see the progression of the message and how actually it moved from one place to another place, developing from one to another. You see that. As she points out. So when you see how the message got to move from one place to another, you see how actually it moved from just not only being in Fiji, but you get starting from 2019. So you have coming to 2019, this is 2018. So this is 2018, and then this is 2019. So you have this space of time to 2019 leading to August to September in Germany. So you have from Fiji to early December, you have the message moving from being just in France, in the United States, in Fiji, going worldwide, or it gets to be shared all across the globe, and you have different people who are going to be sounding this very same message, and other voices going to also join their voices into this message to publicize it or to make it go across. You see that? So you get to 2019, the message of the Midnight Cry actually come to its, she puts it like, it comes to its fulfillment, to its completion when you get to August and September, right? And this is actually going forward. This is actually the German International Camp meeting, right? And what you see, you see that actually this was seen as a fulfillment of prophecy, as a fulfillment of prophecy. So from here to 2020, May 2020 to April, May 2020, that you see the focus of the message now, moving so in this time period, so first of all, the message come to conclusion here. Not to say that there are not other points that are getting to be added, but it comes to its solidity. Yeah, it comes to a conclusion after being worldwide, right? And then the final pieces that are put in place within the message of the Midnight Cry message, you have World War I, World War II, and the third diadochi. And you have World War I, completing with an understanding of World War III. So you see the focus in this when it gets here. It gets to be, you get these messages also coming to make a part and then completion of this of the Midnight Cry message in the German camp meeting. And you have the World War II, the third Daidoki, World War I, and the other message, and also the understanding of World War III. And the other message was the message of Eden, Eden to Eden. And this message was a focal point in the shaking that actually took place in 2019. So we see how God actually was directing us. You can be able to see how we were moving from one stage to another stage, and one point to another point, and progressively the Lord led us actually, or led this movement. So when you look at now the separation that actually took place, right? So we have 2019. So in 2019, we have we have 9 November, right? And 9 November, we mark it as the cross in the line of the priest. But we, even when we mark 9 November as the cross. So when we mark 9 November as the cross, we can be able to see how actually we have we saw that in the past studies that were done, we saw that we have two experiences like that are back to back. We have the upper room, experience, and then we have the wilderness. So you remember the lessons that were done, that we're talking about the upper room and the wilderness experience, how within these 40 days, we mark this as a 40 days, and we mark this as a 40 days. And we see how actually Christ in these two experiences, he was tested by Satan, and he actually the destiny of the world was hanging on the balance in those two experiences. You see that? So we have those two experiences, and I was just double checking something here. Yeah, so you have, obviously we understand that after the upper room, you have Christ being at Gethsemane. So we have these two time periods that are back to back, right? So we mark that in 9 November, and we see how God actually, through leading us with these messages, or the way he led us with, when we get to this point, we may be able to be strengthened, and we may be able to not be shaken. You see that? For example, when you look at the upper room experience, you see that, who do you see living? We see Judas Iscariot living. Who is he leaving? He's leaving the disciples, and he's leaving Christ behind, right? So you have Judas leaving, right? And that's the first separation, or the first shaking we see. So these messages were actually to help us to understand and to be able to be anchored on the truth, or on the cause. You see that? So God gave us the midnight cry message, and then when we get to this time period, God began to open up this line, the line of ancient Israel. So God began to open up the end of ancient Israel. So God, as God points us back to ancient Israel, especially this history of end of ancient Israel, showing us how and what actually took place for God's people to actually fail in this history. this history we mark, so you have the end, this is the beginning, right, of ancient Israel. So why was this history a failure? Why this history was a success? Who was actually failing? Who was actually succeeding? You see that. So when you get to this time period or this history over here, you have a Jewish nation who in the past who have been warned about the Apis bull, right? And who have been counseled to leave behind the Apis bull, right? So we see them leaving the character, the form behind, but continuing even to this history of success with that very same mindset of the Apis bull, not holding on to the image, but holding on to the mindset, right? So we see them failing the Jewish nation. Why? Because of they have went back to they have continued to hold on, and they are continuing with this pagan worship, right? Which they were warned about. Are we still together?
Following.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. So we see a Jewish nation in a history of success failing, but we see the disciples actually succeeding. You see that? So I'll come back to this point. But what actually, what God does when we get, especially into this dispensation, God wanted us to be rooted or to be to hold on to the cords, right? So God directed us back to the reform lines, right? And when God directs us back to the reform lines, it was actually to help us to be able to navigate our way through all these difficulties. You see that? So so in this history, the focus now was on this reform line because of we mark that the message of the Midnight Cry comes to its completion here, and then now God directs us what to the reform lines of the reform lines, the beginning of ancient Israel and the end of ancient Israel, right? And we have the beginning of modern Israel, and then we have the end of modern Israel, right? So God points us back to these reform lines again. This reform lines that were established, that we were given actually in 1989. So that when we come to this most critical part of our history, we can be able to be anchored, right? So we see there were lessons that were done in 2020. When you look at 2020, the school in the Zoom camp in Canadian ministry, you can be able to see this message of the courts, which is actually this message that we're directing us that we need to hold on actually to the courts. So what is the courts? We can be able to see the courts are the reform lines and the message of the midnight cry message. Those are the courts, right? Yeah, we can be able to see that. And the only way we could be safe in this after 9 November, when we entered the wilderness experience, it was by holding on to the court. The only thing that was going to keep us in this history, when there was a shaking, the first shaking, it was the court. So in both dispensations, or in both experiences that were both critical for us as priests, we had no other option but to hold on to the courts. You see that? So we can be able to see how God led us through the midnight cry message, how the message was constantly being unfolding, or the light constantly opening up, and God actually pointing us back to, don't forget 1989, what I gave you. You see that you have these messages for a purpose. You have these lines for a purpose, that whatever that takes place, the anchor you have, it's only in these lines. You see that? So we know that the midnight cry message comes within the lines that God has given us. We can be able to see that the midnight cry message, it's built in what God has given us. I hope that makes sense. So are we still together? Okay.
Following.
Okay, thank you. So what God does in this April, May, we are directed back to this in this history to April. So from here to this time, God directs us back to this to the reform lines, and then from this time, May, June, April, God in the school in Portugal, God begins to point us back now to this. So in this history, even in this camp meeting, God was constantly pointing us now to this reform line, right? The beginning of the beginning of modern Israel. So that's how you can be able to see, for us to understand modern Israel, there were so many things that needed to be put in place first for us to be able to understand modern Israel. Even by this time, we were not fully understanding modern Israel, because it was in this time period that we got to the information, or more light was opened up about external events. Because I believe while we were still 2017, 2018, our focus of the Millerites was just the church. And we were never focused on the external events that were actually taking place, right? We did not know about the elections. We only knew about 1844, and we never knew about the elections that took place in 1844. We never knew about Quincy Adams, or we never knew about many people that were in that history externally. So God, when you get to this point, points us back to this reform line of the beginning of modern Israel. So one point that another point that actually stood out. Okay, so we have the history of failure, right? We mark this as the history of failure, which is the beginning of Israel, of ancient Israel, and we mark that the end. So this is the beginning, and this is the end of ancient Israel. So we see this as a success. So we have, is this the alpha? Omega. Am I right, Shamiso? Am I having my symbols correctly?
Yes,
so
it's correct.
Ancient. Oh, thank you, Shami. So this is ancient, this is modern. Right? Okay, yeah. This is ancient, this is modern Israel. So when you look at ancient Israel and you look at modern Israel, you can be able to compare and contrast. And that's what parables actually teach us. So when you look at this history of ancient Israel, so we have the Apis bull. Right? So the Apis bull mindset continues. Yes, the form has been done away with when you get to the history of Babylon. You see that. So this is Babylon. This is Egypt. This is what Chamiso was doing in the morning. So you have Egypt, you have Babylon, and then you have the history of Rome. So you have the form, it gets to be done away with at this point. But you see the mindset continues, right? So when you get to this history, what made the Jewish nation to fail is to hold on to this mindset. And they were saying, look, we are not in idolatry. We are not like the Romans. We are not like the Babylonians. We are not like the pagans. We don't worship idols. You see that? They would never admit that they are actually in pagan. They are in paganism. But we see the mindset they had. They had the very same mindset as the pagan worshippers, right? So they went back, they were worshiping the Apis bull, the character, not the form. So we see them in the very same mess as those who are actually externally, even though they were actually refusing. For example, the Jewish nation was in the very same mess of worshiping idols as was the Romans, right? But they were denying it. They were saying they are not like that. So when you come to the history of modern Israel, you have the beginning, which is a failure. You have the beginning of modern Israel. You have the Laodicean condition. Right? Which they go back to when they get to this history of success. Right? Why is the SDA not going to succeed? Okay, the disciples are succeeding in this history, and the nation, which is the Church of God, the nation it's failing, but the disciples are succeeding. When you come to our history, you have the 144,000. They are going to be succeeding, and you have the SDA going to be failing. What makes them to fail? It's they have held on to this Laodicean mindset, if I can put it like that. But they have went back to this thinking, to this into this idol worshiping, if I can put it like that. So they have went back to this apostate Protestant mindset of seeing things, actually. You see, so SDA, they go back to this apostate Protestant mindset of understanding, like the idolatry. So what is idolatry in our history? That's a question. What do we mark as idolatry in our history? Hello? Okay, let me pick if nobody's responding. So Nombuso. Nombuso?
Hey, Thato.
Yes, yes.
Why do you like picking me? Oh.
That's the thing.
I'm still asking myself, I'm not sure, is it culture or is it patriarchy?
Don't ask me, I'm asking you.
No, I'm not sure. I don't want to sound like I'm sure. I'm still checking. I'm still you can remind me.
Okay. Let's see what the others going to say. Shamiso?
Okay, I'll just try. Is it apostate Protestantism thinking, yeah, mindset or worldview?
Yes. Milton, number, were you going to say the same thing? So I just want to quickly read something. So I'm going to quote what she said. So this is what she says. I quote, we went back to the Millerite history and we saw the epistle and we saw what this epistle was and represented. And then we were able to trace it and see not why the end of ancient Israel was failure, because it was a success, right? It is a history of success, but not the Jewish nation. So we wanted to see what this Laodicean condition was and how it is carried through in such a way. Not that our history is a is a history of failure, right? So this Laodicean condition, it's carried through to our history. But not our history, it's not a failure. But whose failure is it? Is the failure of the SDA church. But this movement, the 144,000, are actually the ones that are actually succeeding. So what is happening? What we recognize was that it was a returning to idolatry. So when you see the Jewish nation, they returned to the Apis bull idolatry of the pagan nations. So the Laodicean condition, the idolatry of apostate Protestantism, right? So the SDA, where are they returning? They are returning to the idolatry of who? Of the apostate Protestantism. So and then the question was asked, what is this idolatry? So she points out that this idolatry, it's the conspiracy theories, the nationalism. If you look at apostate Protestantism, they believe in conspiracy theories. They are nationalistic, and they have this worldview that actually the threat is the UN, right? The globalism, it's the threat. You see that, and they have something. This is what it's common. This is what I used to believe even when I was in SDA, because of I was drinking from the same well as the apostate Protestantism. I was standing on the. Let me give you this example. I would be standing on this other side of the aisle, and then I would be like, there would be this large chasm in between us, and then this will be Thato and SDA, and this would be Shamiso. This would be Shamiso, a Protestant, an apostate Protestant, for example. This is just an example. And then I would be looking at Shamiso, and then I would be saying, look at you, Shamiso, as an apostate Protestant. You don't believe in even in the right God, because of you don't even worship on the Sabbath. You don't keep the law of God. And I would be loathsome. I would not be in good favor. I would not like Shamiso because of what Shamiso does. Same thing applies to a Catholic. You see that. But at the back, we are actually like this. We are buddies holding hands, because of we have the same worldview. We have, as much as I will be speaking badly about Shamiso, but at the backdrop of all things, me and Shamiso, we actually believe in the same thing. We believe in nationalism, that we are both nationalistic, we are both conservative, we are both hating the Jew, we all speak about the Jesuits, the Illuminati. We speak about the UN as an evil organization. We look at George Soros and we say he's an evil person. We look at all these conspiracies. Me and Shamiso, the Protestant and an SDA, we believe the same thing. We have the same worldview. You see that. So it's only this movement that sees differently when you get to the SDA church. We are the only people who sees the truth as it is, because of when we were believing conspiracy theories. When I was believing conspiracy theories, I used to believe that actually I'm believing the truth, and I would actually stand and evangelize on that conspiracy, because of that's what I have actually imbibed, and I have actually taken in as part of my life. You see that? So I believe I would believe what a Protestant believe, and as I would believe the same thing that a Protestant would believe when it comes to the issue of a Catholic judge. Like when you look at the United States, like a Protestant would say, okay, when you look at a Protestant or an SDA would say that the court it's filled with what? With Catholic judges. And as an SDA, I would see these judges as what? As a threat. And I would see them as people who are going to what? Going to enforce the Sunday law. Since we're Catholic, we would say that these people, it's easy for them to actually pass the Sunday law because of what was the mindset? It was the issue of Sunday Sabbath. Remember now, me and Shamiso, when it comes to the issue of Sunday Sabbath, we part ways. We stand on opposite side. You see that? Because a Protestant worships in the very same day as a Catholic. But me as Thato, I see myself special because of our worship on the Sabbath, on Saturday. So we would come in opposite side, but underground, we are actually believing in the same thing. And when now as an SDA, when I look at the judges in the United States, I would say all these people, they are what? They are Catholics, and they are going to enforce the Sunday Sabbath issue. Anybody wants to say anything or have a question before I pass? So when I look at how I would speak about this Catholic judges, I would say these people, right, they are going to institute the Sunday Sabbath law with the Sunday law. And when you look who actually elected these judges, it will be it will be Protestant who actually elected those Catholic Supreme Court, right? So it was not a president who elected them, but it was a Protestant who actually elected them. And why? So now this is where our mind needs to see this in the context of our message, or in the context of what the Midnight Cry was actually pointing us to. So I'll be looking at this Supreme Court. And I will be, just like with Shabiso, I'll be seeing myself special than Milton. So Milton is a Supreme Court, right? He's a judge at the Supreme Court. This is just an example. So Thato, as an SDA, will be looking at this at Milton as a judge who is a Catholic. Right? And then as I'm looking at Milton as a judge, I would say I will be speaking all bad things about Milton. You see that? But then underground, me and Milton, we have the same worldview when it comes to what? when it comes to the issues such as abortion, such things as what else? LGBTQ. LGBTQ plus. What other things do we see eye to eye, Milton? When we are, sorry?
Patriarchy.
Patriarchy. We will be seeing things eye to eye as Milton.
When it comes to the leadership, like Donald Trump.
When it comes to the leadership, just as Donald Trump, we will be seeing Donald Trump as actually the hero, like Shamiso said in the morning. So you see, you have Shamiso, she's a Protestant. You have Shamiso, a Protestant. You have Thato, and so you have Shamiso Protestant, you have Thato and SDA. And then you have Milton is a judge, a Supreme Court judge, just clearance. So when you speak about reproductive, reproduction, I want to say the current issue currently, that which is under it's going on there. So it be it abortion, the subject of LGBTQ, the issue of patriarchy. Patriarchy, it encompasses all the norms, the gender stereotyping, the gender norms that men actually ascribe to male and a female. When it comes to Donald Trump, it be it reproductive rights. Me, Milton, and Shamiso, we are holding hands and we are actually buddy buddies. But in the surface, where everybody can see us, we are out in the open. We are really seeming like we are actually opposing one another. It looks like we actually hate one another. It looks like we don't even agree, you see. But on the underground issues, such things, that's where me, Milton, and Shamiso, we are actually friends. We are actually seeing things eye to eye. But we are not doing what? We are not hugging and kissing. It's only that we are having what? The same worldview and the same mindset. Are we together?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So just to come, has been doing up until this October, this 2 years anniversary connection of the message, how it away with this mindset of the atheist from his people, his chosen, God's chosen people. You see that. So okay. Salam back. Can you hear me, Shamin?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, that's the summary of it. So just to come to this point. So now the question was, thank you, Shami. The question was that was one of the questions. Some of them they were honest questions. Some of them she saw them as and not so honest questions. You had honest questions and you have questions that were not so honest. So she was dealing with this not so honest question that she received about how is the coming of Cambridge Analytica to the United States, the Sunday law of 2014. She saw that as a not so honest question, but she asked the question, and then she goes back to this reform lines. Like when you look at, okay, let me just wrap off. So you have 4 BC. This is the line of the end of ancient Israel. Or, okay, let's just say this is our line. This is 1989, right? And we speak a lot about fractals, right? So when we speak about fractals, that we say that, we have a big line and we have this line, this line is a fractal of this one, and this one is a fractal of this one, and this one is a fractal of this one. So the question was, Oti, what is a fractal? So what's a fractal? Anybody wants to quickly try? So she actually explains what a fractal is. So we have a fractal, it's a repetition of something. It's something that actually replicates or repeats itself that within that same structure. So you have a structure that actually repeats itself. So for example, you have this example, and then this is the original, right? And then when you look, you have this, it's going to be repeating the whole. You see that? So this is the whole. So this is the original, the whole. And then this, you will have patterns that are repeating the whole. You see? And you have this pattern that repeats itself over and over in the original, if we are all clear. So you have the repetition of a bigger one, you have a repetition of a bigger one. You see that? And then she said, that's the same thing. That's a similar thing, for example, with our line. Is it? But let me, before you answer that, the other one, we are used to this, and then you have, it will be like this. So this over here will be repeating a bigger one. You see, so you have a bigger one, and then it gets to be repeated inside by the smaller ones. You see that? That's another example of a fractal. So, so can we apply this principle, for example, without looking at if there's any, are there any other fractals or ganjani? Can we apply this as it is to our reform line and say, you see, a fractal, it is like this. So then that means our line should be the same as what we see here, because this one is going to replicate this one, and then this is a fractal. So are we going to just take this and say apply it to our reform line? And that's a question. Okay, so we have Tamari, we have Zodwa. Yeah, we have Lillian. So Lillian, Zodwa, Tamari, any question, any answers?
Following.
Following, Tamari. Not okay. That's good if you are following. So my question was, Tamari, that can this principle that we get from this, the way we saw this is a fractal, and we speak a lot about fractal, and we say these lines, this is the line of the first group. This is the second group. This is the line of the priest. This is the line of the Levites. This is the line of the Methanites, the third group, right? So we say these lines, they are actually a fractal of the big line. So this is the line of the 44,000.
Yes.
Right. So can we apply this same model, or can we just take it as it is and then without looking at other things, like what kind of a fractal probably is this? What kind of a fractal are we actually speaking about? I hope you get my question. Did you get the question, Tamari?
Not quite.
Not quite. Sbahle? Melton?
No, the answer is no.
Oh, what was the question? Can you please repeat the question?
No, you were saying, do we literally apply a fractal to another fractal, or we don't just overlay the fractals? We look at the structure and we use the structure, but there are differences in all the lines, like even the fractals of the 150.
Okay, so I want to see if you are following. So this is a big body, right? You are going to have some other leaves that are similar to it. When you look at a fan, for example. So you are going to have other leaves that are actually similar to what? To the big structure, right? So you see this one, it's going to repeat this one. This one is going to repeat the whole, right? So even this one is going to repeat the whole. Even when you come to this side, make this one, it's going to repeat the whole. You see that? You come to this one, you have you have this picture, and then 1, it's gonna repeat the whole. You have 1, 2, 3. It's going to repeat. 1 and 2 and 3 are going to be repeating a whole. So it goes. So you're going to have all this gonna repeat the whole. So my question is, now let's take this example because this is a fractal, right? So if we take this example and apply it in our line, right? We say we have the line of the 144,000. You have 1989, 2001, and in between these two way marks, we have the increase of knowledge and the formalization. We have the repeating pattern in all these dispensations. So we have from in this early rain experience, this is early rain, right? So if this is a fractal, what does this mean? Are we going to take the principles that we learned from this fractal and apply them in this example that we have here? So where is 2019? We mark 2019 as the cross. Are we following?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thato.
So we mark 2019 as the cross, right? So where is actually 2019? It's in the early rain experience, right? So now when we replicate, when we repeat or replicate the very same model we have here on top, what does it mean here? Where is the cross in this line of the priest? Sfiso. Mdluli, khohle igama lakho manje. Mdluli, you said yes, you are following.
Maybe we can repeat the. Maybe we can repeat. Yes. I was saying I'm following because I understand what you're saying. You say that factor we can replace it with those three. These are our lines. You're saying that.
Yeah, it's actually a
Yeah, I was saying that. That's why I say yes. I thought.
But then how do we then, so for example, this, it's a big line, and this 1, 2, it's actually this and this and this, right? Are we together? So where should I, so if the cross is in the alien experience, when you come to the line of the priest, where do we put the cross? Shamiso, you wanted to say something? Or who is it?
For the line of the priest, the cross.
Yeah. Where do we
2019.
put it?
2019.
We put it in 2019. Why do we put it in 2019? Will it that be a nice fractal? I'm just trying to trick you, but then I just want to see if you actually are seeing if we apply this as a fractal, like if we use this method, like we take, so this is actually an exact exact what? Self similar, right? So if we use the exact similar, will that work in this line?
You mean comparing the 144 and the priest?
Yeah.
No.
No. Can you please share why?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm going ahead of the lesson or I'm not sure. Yeah, I remember Elder Tess is saying when we look at fractals, they can be grouped into 3 groups. There are exact, I forgot the other name, exact, there's exact, self-similar, then there's quasi, then there's statistical, yeah, something like that. So when we look at the line of the priest and the line of the 144,000, it's not like exact, you know. Yeah, it's a quasi, yeah, self-similar, yeah. That's how I can explain it. It's like a shadow, not the real thing. It has some elements of it, but not the real, yeah.
So you don't need to only compare, you need also to
Contrast.
You need also to contrast. So if we only compare, what's gonna be the challenge?
You make mistakes.
You make mistakes, right? So you need to compare and contrast. You see that. So the point that was the main point that was highlighting, which is going to be continuing in the next lesson next week, it's about the nature of the fractals. Like, okay, we say these are the shadow of the big one. So this one, it's the let's say it's the reality. This is the real Sunday law. This is the real close of probation, like Shamisa was saying in the morning. This is the real second advent. This is reality. This is what's gonna take place. But when you come to a fractal level, we use symbols, like we use shadows, something that are looking like. You see, can't see to we are fana. No, but you are not that person. You are just near fana and because of we need to be able to contrast. So in Dwenzagayo, we are not only going to compare, we need to contrast. We're in city, Nomboso, we are fana no shamiso. You need to know that you need to be able to contrast as much as you are comparing Shamiso and Nomboso. So this is the fractal. It's not the exact self-similar, but it's a quincy self-similar fractal. We can see the elements of a big line in the small line. Same thing applies to these ones. So that was just the point. That's why I was asking all those questions to see if you are actually following, you see, and understanding the question that I was actually asking, even though I was asking it in a tricky way. But that was actually the point. that when we look at the fractal, we need to know that, for example, we need to, when you speak about something, you need to be able to see where does that thing fit in. Exactly like the word fractal. We can just say fractal. Other person will just say, hey, actually, this is semi-similar. And for example, that's the very same mistakes that FFA made and many others within FFA, as they took this big line within the fractal, they took the symbols of the big line and they were expecting them to happen in the fractal line. So people in at the 9th November the 9th, they were actually expecting a shadow. I remember literally there was somebody who was actually saying that I don't know how will I ever continue with this movement because of my door has been closed. You see that? So people took literally the symbols that were of a big line and they applied them literally. It's like literal reading of something. We can see the big line and then what the big line is saying. But we cannot literally take what is written on the big line and apply them on the fractal level and think that's how it is. We cannot take Daniel 12:1 and apply it on the line of the priest. We cannot take Daniel chapter 11 verse 41 and apply it literally on this fractal line. You see that? So it is to move away from the literal reading, because of that's what many, even within FFA, and there's the problem in this history that people did. You see, they read things literally and they applied them literally, and many people had got to fall away because of that. So it is what? It is a quincey self-semi-fractal. It is not the exact self-similar fractal. So my lesson will end here. I'll just read one comment that was coming from Nombuso. Nombuso, true Thato, the shadow is a symbol of a bigger picture, like our Sunday law 2014. It's a shadow of what is to come. Exactly, Nombuso. Thank you for that. And I think also Shamiso said something similar also in the morning, that when you look at 2014, it's a shadow of what is yet to come. We don't, I'll just hold it there and we'll continue some in the next lesson with with this thought line, because it has part 1 and part 2. So any questions and any additions, please feel free even to inbox Shamiso privately or Milton privately for any questions, please, or Thato. Okay, so I will hand over to, we can just quickly pray and then I will hand over to Shamiso. We are praying. We are praying. Our kind and loving God, thank you for your love and your grace. We ask that, oh God, as this truth begin to make sense than they were when they were actually shared in 2018, 2019, 2020. We really do not comprehend the depth of the truth that which you have shared with us, the steps that you have guided us. We ask that, please, God, may we love the truth and love what you have done for us and what you are constantly doing for us. And with all the challenges that comes with changing our lives, we ask that God, may we not be discouraged, but may we be encouraged that, oh God, as you have begun this good work in us, you shall surely bring it to pass. We give thanks and praise unto your name. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.